Well, hi there. I'm Dr. Marilyn Carroll, and I will be your host for this class, Information on Negotiation. And over the next 19 um, videos, I'm going to talk to you about negotiations. And this comes from the book Negotiation by the authors Roy J. Lewicki, Bruce Berry, and David Sanders. This is a McGraw-Hill education textbook that we'll be using and coming to you from, along with other material that I've given you if you're in my class. And you will have that material as well to review and understand. And so here goes. I'm going to be reviewing the various PowerPoint decks with you and discussing and adding any additional things to it that can help you come to mind. Please listen to all of these videos as you are doing other things in your home. It is a second point of connection for you. My prescription would be to listen to the videos, read the chapter, listen to the videos first, read the chapter, and then answer any questions, discussion posts, and all that you may have. All right. So with that said, we are going to get started with chapter 1. So I'm going to share my screen with you now. All right. So chapter 1. So let's get started. All right, negotiations. This first section is negotiation fundamentals. It's chapter 1, the nature of negotiations. So as we look at this overview, everyone negotiates almost daily. It's part of our life, guys. Negotiations occur for several reasons. A, to agree on how to share or divide limited resources. B, to create something new that neither party could do on their own. Or C, to resolve a problem or dispute between parties. Wow. So people fail to negotiate because they do not recognize they are in a negotiation situation. So options other than negotiation fail to achieve goals or needs. Or people misunderstand the negotiation process and do it poorly. Style and approach. First, a brief definition of negotiations. So what is negotiations, you wonder, or you ask? First, negotiation is a form of decision making in which two or more parties talk with one another in an effort to resolve their opposing interests. There could be bargaining that strives to competitive win-lose situation, haggling. Negotiation refers to win-win situations, mutually acceptable solutions. Many assume the heart of negotiation is the give and take. You give one thing and you take another. Well, negotiation is complex. Factors may shape the negotiation before it begins, or shape the content around the negotiations. So personal experiences, the media, and research all shape style and approach of negotiations. So the sources from the author's insights are drawn from 3 sources in this text: personal experience, the media, and research. So characteristics of negotiation situations. Characteristics which we find that are common, or the author found is common to all negotiation situations, include 2 or more parties, individuals, groups, or organizations. There is a conflict of needs and parties search for solutions. Parties think they can get a better deal by negotiating. In negotiations, a give-take is expected. The parties prefer to negotiate and to search for an agreement. So successful negotiations manages tangibles and resolves intangibles. Now, a tangible can include something like a price or the terms of the agreement, whereas intangibles are those that are underlying psychological motivations that directly or indirectly influence the parties during negotiation. The need to win. I'll say often rooted in personal values and emotions and irresponsible to ignore. So interdependence. Their relationships, these relationships are characterized in one of three ways. When parties have interlocking goals, they are interdependent. Independent parties can meet their own needs without others' help. So when you're independent. So dependent parties must rely on others for what they need. Remember, dependent, if I'm a dependent of a parent or something of that nature. So interdependence and the structure of the situation shapes the negotiation process and outcomes. A zero sum or distributive situation is competitive with one winner. A non zero sum or integrative situation is a mutual gains situation. Interdependence depends on the desirability of the alternatives. A banta is a negotiator's best alternative to a negotiated agreement. Understanding your own BATNA is well as appropriate, or as well as an appropriate opponent's BATNA. BATNer, I'm sorry. As parties influence each other, they engage in mutual adjustments, causing changes to occur during the negotiation process. Now, effective negotiations understand how people will adjust or readjust, how negotiations might twist and turn. The best strategy is grounded in the assumption that the more information available about the other party, the better. So when one party alters their position based on the other party's suggestion, a concession has to be made. Concessions constrain the bargaining range. The range of possible agreements between the two parties minimally accept settlements. So there are two dilemmas in mutual adjustments. There's the dilemma of honesty and the dilemma of trust. Under the dilemma of honesty, it concerns how much the truth to tell the other, how much of the truth to tell the other party. And telling the other party everything may allow them to take advantage of you. Not telling the party about your needs may lead to some type of stalemate. Now, dilemma of trust, it concerns how much to believe what the other party tells you. If you believe everything, you may be taken advantage of. If you believe nothing, you may not reach an agreement. So current trust depends on their reputation, their past treatment of you, and the current pressures that you or that other person are under. So perceptions and patterns are another things about negotiations. Two efforts in negotiation create trust and belief of fairness. One is based on perception of outcomes, shaped by managing how the receiver views the proposed results. The other is based on perceptions of the process. Enhance credibility of the process with images that signal fairness. When people make concessions, they trust the other party and the process far more if a concession is returned. The pattern of give and take is essential to joint problem solving. Satisfaction is determined as much by the process through which an agreement is reached as with the actual outcome obtained. So value of claiming and value creation. Value claiming, value creation. The purpose of distributive bargaining is to claim value, using whatever necessary to claim the reward or gain the largest part. The purpose of integrative negotiation is to create value or find a way for all parties to meet their goals and share the reward. Now, most negotiations combine claiming and creating value. Negotiators must recognize when to use one approach or the other. Negotiators must be versatile and comfortable with using either approach. Negotiators see problems as more competitive than they really are. Coordination of interdependence has the potential for synergy. So creating value through differences. There are some key differences among negotiators. Differences in interest, that means finding compatibility is often the key to value creation. Differences in judgment about the future, how parties see What is possible creates opportunity to get together. And differences in risk tolerance. A company with a cash flow problem can assume less risk. Differences in time preferences. The seller wants to close the deal, but the buyer may not be ready. Value is often created by exploiting common interests, but differences can also serve as the basis for creating value. Conflict. So, interdependent relationships have the potential for conflict as well. Negotiations can play a role in resolving conflict effectively. However, conflict is a sharp disagreement of interests, ideas, etc. It includes the perceived divergence of interest or belief that current aspirations cannot be achieved simultaneously. Now, there are four levels of commonly identified conflict. One, interpersonal conflicts occurs with an individual. Interpersonal conflict occurs between individuals. Now, let's go back to that. Intrapersonal conflict occurs with an individual. Well, interpersonal conflict occurs between individuals. Intra-group conflicts happens within a group, and inter-conflict is between groups, the most complex. This is the most complex conflict because it's so many parties. Functions and dysfunctions of conflict. So let's look at those. Discussion raises awareness, brings change and adaptation, strengthens relationships and boosts morale, promotes self-awareness, enhances personal development, and encourages psychological development. It can be stimulating and fun, okay? Depends on the people and what they like to do. I like talking, so it's stimulating for me. Discussion is very stimulating. So what about you? What is discussion for you? Win-lose goals lead to competitive processes. Misperception and biases increase. Emotionality may increase. Productive communication decreases. Blurred central issues arise. Rigid commitments locked in. Magnified differences and escalation of the conflict. So these are functions and dysfunctions. Factors when managing conflict. Now, here are some factors that are difficult to resolve. Issues is a matter of principle. The issue is a matter of principle. This is difficult to resolve. Large stakes, big consequences. A zero-sum situation. A single interaction. No neutral third party available. Unbalanced conflict process or progress. Now, easy to resolve are those divisible issues, small states, little consequences, positive sum situation, a long-term relationship, trusted power, third parties available, and balanced conflict. So the dual concerns model is the model that we receive presented on the monitor. And so we see various things with this dual conflict. So there's yielding, problem solving, compromising, contending, interaction. All of those come back to a compromising state. Effective conflict management. Individuals in conflict have two different levels of concern. They're concerned about their own outcomes, and they're concerned about others' outcomes. Now, there are 5 major conflict strategies that are identified in the dual concern model. They are the contending strategy is used for trivial issues, not complex issues. Yielding is helpful if you were in the wrong, not with important issues though. Interaction is appropriate for cooling off period, not when you're responsible for the decision though. Problem solving is needed with complex situations needing commitment from others for success, not for simple or timely issues. The compromising strategy is appropriate when power is equal, not when power is not equal or when the problem is very complex. So, what is your taste now for conflict, managing conflict or negotiations? What's that flavor like now? What did you get from this particular first chapter? Well, we're going to talk a lot about this in our coffee conversation. Remember, dual concerns here are concerned about your own income, represented on a scale from low to high or the horizontal axis, and concern for other outcomes, again, ranked by high or low. There are 5 major strategies for conflict management that were identified in this particular situation. And so we talked about all of those. So I hope that this has been a intriguing chapter 1 for you. And I know we're going to have lots of questions. And I'd love to know about situations you've been involved in and what you felt as though that particular are highly equated to what we talked about here today in conflict management. So that's it. See you in chapter 2 and Coffee and Conversations.